Welcome to IGN's News, Games, and More, where we talk about, you guessed it, news, games, and more. Today we've got some really exciting stories to go through with you guys, not the least of which being this first story that Phil Spencer says the Xbox Series X game reveals won't be too much of a wait.
Hold on. Actually, there's a bunch of movie news that just came through.
For real?
Yes. It's
Like
kind
when?
of like maybe 10 minutes ago.
What happened?
Well, sorry, Spidey fans. Your movies have been pushed back. Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Verse 2 are being delayed by a few months. They're still going to come out in 2022, but it's pretty late. Uncharted, or actually Thor 4 and Doctor Strange 2 have also been delayed. All expected stuff.
Well, we knew about Thor and Doctor Strange, right?
Well,
It
was delayed further now. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yes. And then, but Uncharted, the movie, a movie that was supposed to start production already and then got postponed to July because of COVID, is actually being pushed up earlier by 5 months. That movie was supposed to come out in October in 2021, and now it is coming out July 2021.
No way.
Yeah, way.
Well, you know why?
Why?
Because Spider-Man 3 is now in November of 2021, and so if you had two Tom Holland movies unrelated right back to back, it would be a nightmare for marketing and interviews and all his.
But why would you push up the movie that's like infamously cursed?
That's a great question.
Like they already had enough problems trying to shoot this thing and to get a director, and now with COVID slowing down production, they're like, hey, you know what? I think we can make it 5 months earlier. Like, I think we can hit that mark.
Maybe
Dude,
like half the movie action takes place from Tom Holland's apartment and his like, how are they going to?
He's just doing research on his computer as to like where the next talisman is.
They're like, we'll go for a really raw look. Just shoot it on your Sony or whatever phone you use.
And he's on a Zoom call with Sully.
Right.
I can't believe they're jerking around that movie even more than they already have. It's like the Fallout 76 of movies at this point. Like they could not keep. They've fallen.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, it's not out yet. If it's out and it turns out to be amazing, then it's not the Fallout 76 of movies.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, Jeremy.
I'd like it to be amazing. I want it to be good. I love that franchise. It's just hard to believe with all the, starting and stopping that they keep doing with that one.
Currently, it's the Duke Nukem Forever of movies.
That's a probably more apt comparison.
Yes.
But hopefully not that cataclysmically bad when it does come.
I wish it could just be the Uncharted of movies, but they don't
If
seem
only.
to be able to pull that off.
Only. Just go watch Indiana Jones again, or even National Treasure.
How do you just move a movie up, especially when you can't even like be filming right now? Like, how does that work?
I'm willing to bet this is not the last big slew of date updates that we get, right? Like there's no way people can tell yet.
Yeah, I know earlier this week, Christopher Nolan's Tenet was announced to be staying in its July release date. I think a WB exec was like, yeah, it's still going to be in July or whenever theaters reopen. So they're just gonna wait, and then the moment theaters reopen, they're like, oh, also Tenet's out. I don't know how that's going to work.
I really appreciate certain movies and studios being like, you know what, let's just try releasing at home. Like Scoob, right? Scoob's not getting delayed. It's just getting a home release, an online release pretty quickly. I think I hope more studios try that and take risks with that.
It works for some things, but not for everything. I got kids, and we watched Trolls World Tour.
Yeah.
Here, I paid $20 to watch Trolls World Tour.
What a deal, honestly.
That was fine, actually. It was great. I think for that movie, it makes a lot of sense. That movie wasn't going to make $1 billion, I don't think. But they couldn't do that they're not going to do that with Black Widow or something like that. There's no way.
I wish they would do it with Black Widow. That was the one I was most excited about. You know who made out really, really well in all of this? Sonic and the Sonic movie, because the Sonic movie came out right before everybody was put on lockdown, and then they did like an immediate home release. So if you want to watch it at home, that movie had to have done well. I think we did a story about it not that long ago.
They saved a lot of money on marketing by doing that way too.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, hey, stuck in your house? Well, here's one of the new movies you can watch of two. It's either this or Trolls.
I think kids' movies are like that. Like, you can do that with kids' movies because, one, I think parents are more desperate to pay for something like that. And two, I don't think their like box office gross was ever going to be like that high anyway. So
306.8 million according to Wikipedia for Sonic as of March 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Tenet, that's not one that could go. That's not one that could just go straight to home. That's like the kind of movie you see in the theater. That's like for cinephiles.
Yeah. John Donuts actually said that in the YouTube chat. Said Tenet is a film that needs to be seen in cinemas, and I don't disagree either. I think that his that God, why am I blanking on his name? The filmmaker, please help me, save me. Christopher Nolan. Thank you. Christopher Nolan's like style is so rich with detail and so rich with like the spacing of shots and the lighting and all that. You want to see that in the best way you can see it.
And he's a total like theater file. Like, he is a proponent of film, the format, not just like, he doesn't shoot digitally. Like, he really likes shooting on film. He loves theaters. He's like the Scorsese, like, he's similar in Scorsese in that way, that they really like the art of cinema.
He's not going to be a total David Lynch about it, but he's not going to like advocate for watching on your phone, right?
I mean, yeah, he's never going to be like that.
Christopher Nolan advises that everybody watch his movie, his masterpiece, on their tiny screen on their phone. I don't see that ever happening.
That's another thing as well. Like, movies that like are most like well experienced in a theater are probably not going to be released digitally, but like Trolls, like it's probably just as good on your phone as it is in a theater, so those make sense. Even like Artemis Fowl got like pushed off of theaters and onto Disney Plus as well. And it's
crazy the effect that this had on Marvel movies, that because they're all connected, like the whole thing has to shift as a result, right? Like, they can't just like move one movie. That's got to be weird.
Yeah, it's kind of.
And imagine if they were still tying it like super into something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of the TV shows, right? If those are still super tied together and those schedules are more rigid, suddenly an event that was supposed to happen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like just wouldn't happen. Like, what would they even do?
Like, nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, movie's been delayed. Uncharted movie is moving earlier for people that are.
They're gonna move it back later again. Watch.
But like, how much later, right? Because Spider-Man 3 is supposed to come out. What you said, like October 2021 now?
They can't film anything. How can you move your?
I don't know. But they set it to that, right? And so if they delay Uncharted, which is more likely to be delayed, they're gonna push it back even farther. So it'll probably be like July 2022.
I won't believe that an Uncharted movie is coming out until I am in the seat watching it. Like, I have no faith whatsoever until it is actually there.
Agreed.
What if the Marvel movies moved because they heard Uncharted's going to be such a smashing success, and they're like, we got to get out of the way.
That's probably what really happened.
And it has nothing to do with anything else.
There's no way. It's Marvel. Marvel is like immovable.
Yeah,
at this point. There's no way they're gonna shift.
I'm making the jokes.
I'm making the jokes. All right. Well, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, do we want to go back to our actual first story of the day?
Hit it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Speaking of things that may or may not be delayed, Phil Spencer says Xbox Series X game reveals won't be too much of a wait. So. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but he said that the next step for Xbox Series X reveals are going to be coming soon, or at least he implied that. In a tweet, he said, let me pull up the tweet and I'll read you exactly what his words were verbatim. Reviewed plans yesterday for continued sharing through launch. Team is doing great work in adapting. I've never been more excited about Xbox plans. We've heard you. and authenticity. We plan to keep showing that way. Next step is not too much of a wait, in parentheses, games. So it's like a little bit of a word salad. But basically what he's saying here is we're really close to them telling us what the games are. They have heard our feedback where we're constantly saying, like, we're hearing about hardware a lot, but the hardware doesn't mean anything without games to play on. On Next Gen Console Watch and a lot of the other shows, we've had a lot of discussions about how Sony kind of ran away with this current generation with, frankly, superior first-party support. Microsoft going out and having this party line where they're saying that we're very PC-like, I think appeals to some, but not all. And a lot of people are saying, the decision is really going to come down to the software. What is the software? When can we start talking about what that's going to be? So now we're getting pretty close to it. So this has led to renewed speculation after rumors began swirling around the possibility of a Series X event in May. And the fact that Xbox recently trademarked a new logo for Series X. Many of the same discussions mention a reveal for Lockhart, the long-rumored low-end variant of the Xbox Series X, which we're hoping to get some information about that as well. What more context can you provide on this, Tom? Are you pretty hip to what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. Phil Spencer is I really appreciate his candor, especially on social media with stuff. He's a dude who won't, obviously he can't just talk about everything, but he's not afraid to just be like, yeah, we got some stuff coming. And it's really nice to have that sort of like in his tweet, I think too, right? They're talking about the transparency. They want to be transparent. They want to be communicative. And this is a really good evidence of that they're like, yeah, we've got more stuff coming. If you compare Sony to Microsoft in terms of how they've been rolling out their reveals for their next gen stuff, Sony has been very conservative with stuff, and they've been slower to reveal stuff, whereas Microsoft has been going at a pretty consistent cadence. So the idea that Phil Spencer is yeah, we got more
within one night to dream 75 years of time.
Overly surprising to me, especially when we're a little less than a month and a half away from where E3 would have been, right? The thing that's really
naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams,
is that he said that
fulfill all your wishes.
Parentheses gives us a sense of what we will see next, right? Yeah, there's been rumors about a smaller Series X or all that sort of stuff, but basically he's just saying, next up, we're going to talk about software. And that's cool that we have sort of a little bit of an indication. We have a sort of compass, where the compass is pointing next. The fact that there's more coming is not overly a surprise, though.
I think sorry, go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, people keep talking about Xbox, and there's a lot of shade thrown Xbox's way, pretty regular. I think, and I've said this multiple times on the show, that they have been rocking how they roll out all the info about the Series X. And thus far, Sony's been able to say very little. And no matter what they say, it gets eaten up. But I just think Xbox is just hitting this excellent cadence of news. They're being very forthcoming with information. And to Tom's point, this tweet is in response to an Xbox fan who does YouTube shows about Xbox also, and he just straight up answered his question. And having that sort of accessibility to somebody like Phil, Sony hasn't been doing that as much. I think they were better about it when they were in the heyday of the PS4, for sure. And it seemed like you could talk to Shu used to be over there, right?
Who would even be the guy at Sony that would do something like this?
Well, Tom, who did it used to be? It used to be Dan Shu, right? And Dan Shu would talk with people a lot, or no? Or was he Sega?
I mean, they jumped around. That's the thing is, I think it's indicative of the fact that there isn't really one immediate face to pull to, right? There were a couple people that would do it for sure, but they've always been a more sort of closed off company to a certain extent. And to the point you just made, Microsoft is going out of their way to not be like that right now, which is very appreciated.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about the Xbox launch lineup, and they just keep knocking it out of the park. I think Sony has a lot of work to do in that department. That conference they did for GDC, I understand what they were going for. They were going for a GDC conference. It was not received well.
I don't think that was meant to be user-facing at all. That was not what it was intended.
The issue with that, I think, you can rightfully kind of give Sony crap for that. But I think the issue was that was entirely messaging, right? That was a GDC talk that they decided to still do digitally, and they didn't message it well enough that this is like a developer thing. This is not really for consumers, even though there will be some things in here that are interesting to consumers. So I think that if they had just been way more clear about that, it wouldn't have been like this thing that blew up on them. But you got to do what you got to do. And like the unfortunate or the weird thing about Sony too is that because, and this is not me throwing shade at Microsoft, it's just stating fact, because the PS4 is so much farther ahead of the Xbox One and Sony has such a commanding lead in this generation, they have the luxury of being quiet right now. Whereas Microsoft needs to do stuff like Phil Spencer just tweeting, "Oh, we got some game stuff coming," or the implication of that, because they need to win people over and they need to get people excited right now.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I was doing TD. Did you read the exact quote, Jeremy? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. To me, it's just super exciting to know, because my initial impression was that they were going to come out with the Xbox Series X and then we're going to have this long wait before titles. But not only has he doubled down saying we're not too concerned about shipping constraints. So they've already said that in the last few weeks. They said it to us on Unlocked. And then he's also saying, oh yeah, by the way, you're not going to have to wait as long for your games. So I'm surprised, and we'll see if that comes to fruition.
I mean, didn't you sort of assume that there was going to be some kind of announcement around like what would have been E3 time?
I assumed there would be problems with.
You would have to do that.
Well, to answer your question about the specific points he's talking about, I assumed that he would announce there would be a shortage of consoles due to the challenges that everybody's facing in the world. And I assumed that there would be more announcement about delays of games. Instead, he said, we're not concerned about being able to meet market needs for shipping of the consoles. And hey, you're going to get your game sooner? It's just like win-win, And Sony, meanwhile, they're like, you better get a PS5 because they're going to go fast.
Yeah, I mean, if it's true, what is stated in the article, that there is even the remote possibility of some sort of event in May, and not in June, that's bonkers. That's like completely unexpected, totally unreal.
And that echoes some of the news and the rumors you alluded to at the beginning of this talk. But like there have been rumors too spreading that because that focal point of E3 week is gone, right? Like still people are doing certain events, but suddenly that restriction is just widening in both directions. And some people are going earlier, like rumored to be going earlier. Some people are rumored to be going later. So like this one sort of focal point it's very easy to say, okay, yeah, there are probably going to be announcements around here. But like now we're starting to figuring out like maybe they're going to be like a month or two in each direction even. And it's going to be a lot different than we thought.
Well, they're sitting on more stuff than they normally would be, right? Here's what we know. We know that there is probably going to be something from Halo Infinite and Hellblade 2. Those are the two things that we've seen and heard a lot about, right? If you just take a cursory glance at like what the people even in our chat are saying, people are saying like Indie Guy says Forza 8, native 4K, 120 frames per second. Like that would be crazy. A Fable teaser. I think a lot of people are expecting that. Fable is the franchise that could connect the dots between the sort of like the single player action gamer and the RPG gamer that they're targeting with all these acquisitions that they're making. These 3 new RPGs in the works with different studios, which has been pointed out by Real Frowns. They've got Initiative, working on some kind of debut game. We've heard a lot of rumors about Assassin's Creed Ragnarok. And on top of all that, we've got Watch Dogs 3 and all that Ubisoft stuff being pushed back to next gen, which I realize is not first party, but there's a lot of cool, interesting stuff that they could be showing. And if they can kind of beat Sony to the punch with that, and then also like come with those exclusives, that could be a real game changer in terms of momentum on like pre-orders and getting early market share, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think there's one thing that we haven't discussed that has been rumored for a while. I was actually looking to see if they had officially said on Inside Xbox that they were doing an Xbox Series X event already. I don't know. I couldn't find anything, but I was reminded by all these other stories. There's still Lockhart. Lockhart is rumored to be the cheaper middle ground in between a Xbox One X and a Series X that would hit a price sweet point that we haven't heard anything about with the PS5. And if they come out and they say there's already a high likelihood based on the PS5 news that they'll at least be able to match the price of the PS5. And if they have a second SKU that is also cheaper, it's just more butts in the seats, so to speak, in the Xbox ecosphere, to use a made up term that's not real. Just kidding.
Hate that term.
So
Hate
you have
that term.
You have Xbox One X, you have Xbox Series X, you have PC players who can come in, and then you have this rumored middle tier item. That's 4 different platforms you can play on and get a great gaming experience in the Xbox ecosphere. That one's for you, Tom. So yeah, it's just they're setting themselves up for success. Now, I want Sony to come out. I want them to get clear messaging going forward. That's what I would absolutely love to see. I want to know more about their console. I want to know more about how those loading times are going to impact their games and make them better than what Xbox is going to be offering. Because if you're a third-party studio, are you going to be able to harness the power of that hard drive when you're developing cross-platforms? I don't know.
You know what? A lot of people in chat are talking about. This is like a little bit of an aside, but default skin says portable Xbox handheld, and a bunch of people are jumping on this. Actually, like right on top of them. You know, Jason Kristoff is saying like also if they announce an xCloud open beta, like xCloud and Lockhart, like to me, like if I were in charge of that business unit, I would say give me like some kind of portable version that uses xCloud to like bring your games with you on a portable basis. And we've talked about this on the show before, but I think like that could be like an absolute market killer if they came out with something like that. No idea if that's even like within the realm of possibility, but how incredible would that be?
People love ripping off Nintendo, so you know.
It wouldn't be the first time they did it.
Yeah, people love looking at Nintendo's crazy cool hardware innovations and being like, let's do that. So sure. I wouldn't count it out. I don't necessarily know if I'd bet on it, but I also think it would be undoubtedly really cool.
Well, xCloud's already going to let you load your games early. So, man, it's going to be so different. Next generation is just going to be so different from what we know now in terms of loading times, in terms of the technology available to the developers. Being able to use something like xCloud to load your games in the background is going to make such a substantial difference to how quickly you're going to be able to just hop in and start playing. The worst thing about launch night about video games right now is that, all right, well, I'll start my download and I'll be able to play tomorrow. And
yeah, you get home from work and you're like, came, I got it. And you're like, okay, well, I'll play it in a couple hours, I guess.
Got it installed, yeah. Man, remember you just flipped a switch on an N64 and it's just like, boom.
It's going to be like that again. Like, we've seen these like load time tests.
I'm excited.
Where stuff is just instantaneous, and we've covered many times how they have they're promising multiple save states that will like automatically load. Like you can just switch between one game and the next and just pick up exactly where you were. For people that play, like I play a lot of indie games and stuff, like I bounce back and forth between like AAA and indie games, and the idea of being able to like easily just swap around depending on my mood is like so appealing.
Yeah.
While we're doing this show, I'm actually trying to connect to my Xbox because I am in the Project xCloud beta. So, like, if I wanted to, I could bring it up on I believe it's on iOS devices, but my apps are out of date. So, rip the dream. But xCloud is really powerful. It's really, really interesting. And if they get the latency down, I mean, that's where the future is going, right? The future is going cloud-based gaming, and they're just going to continue to improve upon it. And as more and more of the world gets fiber, so five years from now, I think it's just going to be a totally different gaming experience for everybody. Jeremy, why'd you go with the Fable in the thumbnail?
That's like a little bit of a wish fulfillment.
Wish fulfillment. Just put it out into the universe, and then the universe will give it to you. It's the secret.
One hopes. Fable. Look, Xbox needs a hit. They really, really, really do.
They really do.
They need to hit really bad. And Halo is great, but there's like a lot of competition in the shooter space right now. You know, they're going to be launching Halo like right up next to like all these free-to-play games. They got to compete with Apex. They got to compete with Valorant. You know, Riot is going to be putting a lot of cash behind that. It's going to be very competitive. They still got Call of Duty like coming out being the best-selling game every single year. We got a lot of games with Space Marines. Halo is great. I love Halo. It's a wonderful franchise. It's a system seller, but you know there are a lot of gamers who are a little bit more on the fantasy side, and they like elves and wizards and dragons and daggers, and you know, and I'm one of them. You know, you got a new Fable game, you know, with next gen technology. You got a buyer day one.
So the Forza team is working on a new open world game, and Phil Spencer has actually commented about Fable as recent as early April 2020. Here's what he said. He said, Xbox wants, and I'm reading off of Games Radar where I found the quote, but this is from his Twitter probably, to make sure that when we talk about things to come, whether it's Fable or not, that the team feels very solid about what they are doing. I will harken back to the Marvel MMO. Anybody remember us announcing a Marvel MMO? We didn't even have a team that was signed that would do Marvel MMO. So a lot of stuff.
That's also got to be a reference to Fable's pretty rocky kind of development history recently, since Fable 3 at least, of like Fable Legends, right? It was called, and then it went away, and it had a card game version too.
They were trying to shove Fable Legends down our throat, and I got so much crap for just saying like, man, this is not Fable. Like I'm the Xbox guy, admittedly. I love PlayStation also, and I want PlayStation to do well, but I grew up on the 360, or I guess I was in my 20s. Whatever. I'm old. Point is, I'm old.
If you never grow up, you can keep growing up with new consoles.
I'm happy they're getting the tone right, and I'm happy they're developing this. And Fable Legends just did not hit that mark for me. There were a lot of big fans out there and everything, but it just felt like a different game that they tried to shoehorn into the Fable franchise, as opposed to Fable being Fable and just striking that perfect balance of humor and magic and all the things that Jeremy just talked about that he loved from the franchise, and that I'm sure that our chat loves.
Yeah, a really great Fable would be like Witcher if it were funny.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, so here's the deal.
Charm.
I'm not gonna disagree.
It's
yeah,
charming.
It is charming. Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with any of that. I think though, in terms of Xbox Series X launch window stuff, I don't think we're anywhere near a Fable 4. I think if we're gonna get that, like, I'm not even convinced that it'll come. Like, if they're making it, I don't think it'll be anytime soon. And I don't think if they announce it around Series X, all they're gonna do, in my eyes, is like the Metroid Prime 4, like, or like the Starfield, you know, just like, here's a logo, and then we won't hear about it for 2 years. Like, I think we're that far away from that type of game. And I could be completely wrong there. This is all just speculation, but like, because of the history, because of like the way Spencer was talking about it in that quote Destin was just reading, but also just the history of that franchise and the rocky development of it, man, I think that game is not close.
I think you're right, but I think in proper like Fable form, they will write a bunch of checks with their mouth that their ass can't cash about what Fable can do, and then we'll see it like 3 years later. But I think they will start talking about it, and they'll be promising things that are not possible, and that'll be Fable.
Have you guys seen their tweet that Hermit in our comments mentioned that they might have hinted at Fable a couple days ago, and it's a tweet that says when your custom character shows up in a cutscene, and they made a stick figure with a chicken head, and then 3 other characters, and they even replied to their own tweet and said, if you weren't wearing the chicken hat, were you ever really a hero? So I mean, the timing all adds up to maybe a Fable. You know what I mean?
Well, like, dude, we already know that Playground Games is working on an open world game alongside Forza Motorsport 8, right? We know that there's been leaks, including concept art and images that look like the Fable house and Fable characters. They've been constantly teasing a new Fable, and that's been like for a year, right? So is it really so far-fetched to think that we get a Fable in, I don't know, early 2021. I don't
probably
think so.
Probably not for launch. Like again, Tom is 100% correct that like Xbox hasn't come around to the idea of trying to capture the true nerd. You know, Xbox is still like really going for the Call of Duty, like Madden gamer, I think, compared to Sony. You know, that's why you see.
I mean,
like
they just bought Obsidian.
7 remake. Yeah, we'll get there eventually. You're right, but for launch, I think we're more likely to see like what was mentioned before, like a 4K like Forza, like running at 120, like an incredibly like a honey trap for basics, right? Like,
but also like a great tech demo, you know?
Yeah, a tech demo type game where you look at it and you go like, that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Like, I have to have that in my home.
Jeremy, it's called Forza. They do it every console launch.
Yeah,
I think Forza is the safest bet you can possibly make, right? It's about as safe as saying Hellblade 2, right? Or Halo, which are announced. Mm-hmm. But based off of what Destin said, like, I mean, I'm totally willing and happy to eat my words if Fable ends up arriving sooner than I expect. It totally.
Man, you're so right to point out the acquisitions they made in the role playing space though. Like, do we know what any of those studios are working on really? Like, what can
Not
we see
really
there?
We don't know what Obsidian's on. We're getting, what is it, Tom? Wasteland 3?
Is that, I don't know. Let me double check.
I think it's Wasteland 3.
I mean, we'll find out soon.
Wasteland 3 is supposed to be out soon.
That's in Exile, right?
Yeah.
So that's
that's in Exile.
Mm-hmm.
That's supposed to be out in August of this year, but last I checked on Amazon, like pre-orders were closed on that, which I don't know what that means, but
Obsidian just released the better Fallout game. The one you really like, Jeremy. Help me out here.
Oh, Outer Worlds.
Yeah, that was Obsidian, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Outer Worlds was great. I loved Outer Worlds. I played the hell out of that.
I liked it. I liked it for 80% of the game.
Wasteland 3 is like back up for pre-order, so
we don't know a lot of what they bought. I mean, some of the things that they bought, like Playground, we know is just working on Forza and whatever the open world thing is that Destiny. In Exile and Obsidian, we kind of don't know yet. Like I think that it would probably be crazy to think that someone internally at Microsoft and Obsidian were like, hey, so you guys are doing Outer Worlds 2, right? Like that, you're working on that now? Like, that's got to be happening.
How did it
But we don't know about Double Fine. Like, there's a lot.
Oh, yeah, Double Fine. So it says Outer Worlds sold 2 million units. So I'm wondering, does that constitute a success for them? That was from October 25th. Or no, sorry, I got to read more on this. But the story that popped up immediately when you type in Outer Worlds sales says 2 million units. That's from back in February, right? Is that constituting a success or a failure in their eyes? You know, time will tell. So maybe it's something like Outer Worlds 2 is way down the line and we get the leapfrog game is, you know?
It's not like a bonkers, like huge mega success, but it warrants a sequel, I think.
It also won a lot of awards though.
Of course.
It was definitely one of my favorites of the last year for sure. I mean, I really liked how that game in particular managed to take a lot of the things that we love about the Fallout franchise, frankly, and then like streamline it to be like a little bit of a tight adventure.
For a comparative analytics, Spider-Man on PS4, 3.3 million units, including those bundled with the PS4 console. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Wait. I might have an update on that. Marvel's Spider-Man for PS4 has sold over 13 million units worldwide.
That's a few more.
According to a story on this website, marvel.com. That's significant. Yeah, as of July 28th, Marvel's Spider-Man has sold over 13.2 million units globally. This is not being the only records the game has broken within the first few days on the market. The game became the PS4's fastest selling game. Now that's Spider-Man against Outer Worlds, so
That's a known IP with probably a bigger budget. So
it's a known IP with a bigger budget on the larger install base of consoles, but Outer Worlds is cross-platform. So I'm sure they're happy with a 2 million in sales. That probably constitutes the manpower and efforts and cost that went into developing the product. We'll have to see how it does over a longer period of time, though.
It'll probably get a sequel that's on the scale of Dishonored 2.
That's another franchise that was critically acclaimed. That's
what I'm guessing.
No Dishonored 3.
Those games are great too, but they just sold okay. So
I mean, but that's such a weird thing to do too, because the Dishonored 1, Dishonored 2, Death of the Outsider, and Prey, and then also Prey's DLC, like, are all phenomenal games that did not sell well and did not like justify themselves, like to keep them going. So,
well, according to them, it significantly exceeded expectations. So that's good to hear, and that's from Strauss Zelnick over at Take-Two.
Outer Worlds, you mean?
Yeah. So that's good to hear, and especially for a new IP. Hopefully, we get a sequel. I think just selfishly, I would love to see what that company can do with other IPs, because Outer Worlds was so good. It really hit that tone that everybody likes. I just don't want to see them only work on that. I would love to see one other property for them. And yeah, that's all. And it's totally selfish. Totally selfish. Yeah.
No, but they're a studio that does that, right? Like Obsidian is not a studio that dedicates everybody to a single game and is only working on that at any given time. They do work on multiple stuff.
Mm-hmm. We should probably move on.
Yeah,
I think we went.
Video games.
We've been on this one for a long time, but it's it's good to see that there is the possibility of the very obvious stuff and also like the very like niche dorky stuff that we like. Actually like being there at launch, so that there's something for everybody. I can't wait to see what they announce. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I haven't been excited for like Xbox reveals in a while. So
right, like never as much as this. There's so much possibility here. Like,
I'm excited.
What I'm not excited about is getting my Nintendo Switch hacked. What about you guys?
Oh, definitely not. That is one of my least favorite things to happen.
Well, you'll be unhappy to know that Nintendo has confirmed that hackers have been accessing Nintendo accounts and put the problem down to a network ID login method. In a post on its Japanese website, Nintendo says the hackers are able to access users and password data for Nintendo network IDs, and then use that information to log into the accounts and basically make unauthorized purchases. And they estimated that about 160,000 accounts have been affected. I guess the good news is that they got on top of it pretty quickly here, and they're saying that credit card information has not been viewable, but they warn that some of these hackers may have had access to like user nicknames, personal information, email addresses, like other stuff that's linked to the IDs.
Do I need to change my password?
I mean,
only if you got an email about it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
If you haven't heard anything, seen anything, you're probably okay, but
tight.
Yeah.
I was literally about to jump out of this chair to go grab my Switch.
There's
who is responsible?
The best recommendation go to the Nintendo site right now. This is for every single person in the chat too. Go to the Nintendo site and set up 2-factor authentication. Super easy, super safe.
You did it. You stopped the hackers.
This is some great B-roll you got going on here, Dustin.
Yeah, Jeremy had me pull B-roll from the movie Hackers. I loved this movie when I was in high school. It was like, it's just so dumb, but it's like really fun.
Skateboarding into a room full of neon servers with like a Google Glass on and like a fur coat. It's just crazy.
We had to, sort of a funny story. Like that guy's character is like the security consultant, right? And there's this guy, Kevin Mitnick, who, went through all of this stuff, and we got assigned security training at IGN from Kevin Mitnick's firm recently, and it was just such a weird situation for me.
What'd you say?
You've never heard of Kevin Mitnick?
Did you say Kevin Mitnick's sperm?
No, what?
What did you say? Kevin's what?
Firm.
Yeah, that's what are you talking about?
Firm. Oh, firm. I heard Kevin Mitnick's sperm, and that's when I was like, huh?
Get your mind out of the gutter. Jesus.
My mind's not in the gutter. It's just these earphones are cheap. Come on.
It's probably the goose juice.
It's a little bit maybe of goose juice.
Can we get budget approved to get Josh Dew a set of better headphones?
Please. How about a better laptop so I'm not looking like a blur constantly when I'm moving around? That'd be also great.
You're covering the socials too fast. That's all. Gotta go fast.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I like the movie Hackers. Kevin Mitnick. Security training.
Well, what do you guys? Are you guys surprised that this is happening to Nintendo Switch? Like Nintendo, look, Nintendo Switch is not the console that I think about when I go like multiplayer gaming. Yeah. I'm gonna be online for this thing.
I would have guessed it would happen sooner. Like at this point, it's like, yeah, you had all this time, but then again, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, if they didn't have an incident this whole time, then it's like, oh, why do we need to change anything? And then something happened, and now they're going to change. So it is what it is.
Well, the interesting thing to that point of like, it's funny that this didn't happen sooner is that the way they did this was by exploiting Nintendo Network IDs, which are the old way Nintendo used to do online account stuff. And so they've the hackers manipulated a system that has been around for a while and outdated. So Nintendo's solution to it was literally just to disable that system completely, because the amount of people it would affect who are actually using it is probably very minimal. And so that's a really weird, interesting thing that it had this, it's such an old system that caused these problems. It doesn't really surprise me given kind of how behind the curve Nintendo has been in the past on online stuff.
Why were they still using that same old system? Do we know?
It's just a legacy system. There are still people who, might have, there are humans out there who might have the 3DS and they don't have a Switch and they need to import their stuff over, or a Wii and skip the Wii U and they're coming to Switch and that sort of thing. They wanted to keep it around, but it caused problems.
Do you think Nintendo has handled it as best as they could in this situation? It sounds like their solution was pretty effective.
Oh, excuse me, I misspoke. The Wii U was the one that used Nintendo Network IDs, not the Wii. But
I see.
It's interesting. Something like this is so interesting because you kind of only heard about it if you were affected by it or read the Japanese website, right? It wasn't. It affected a very small group, so it's hard to say how long this has been going on without people knowing about it, how serious the implications are of it, unless you were directly hacked. And I think that they responded well. I think that they've done a good job of being shutting it down and stopping it quickly, and being communicative about exactly what hackers saw and didn't see. That's very important. But also it's hard to get a full view on kind of what their response really looked like and the timeliness of it and that sort of thing, at least from my perspective.
After widespread reports about unauthorized access to Nintendo accounts this week, the company said it was investigating the issue and asked users to enable two-factor authentication for their accounts. If you don't got 2FA on all your stuff by now, you're doing it wrong.
I literally just did it during this show. That's how easy it was.
You gotta at least take that step. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they can circumvent that too. There's always somebody out there trying to spoil your fun. I hate it when hackers are shutting down the goddamn PlayStation Network or Xbox Live or something. That's such a rude thing to do to all of us.
Tom solved the problem with his very first comment about the story. Turn on 2FA. What's our next story?
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Well, the next story is only tangentially related in as much as it's about a Nintendo game, but I did think it would be good to talk about the Animal Crossing patch and did it fix the economy? Was the economy even broken to begin with? You guys all playing Animal Crossing?
Yeah. It's broken. I would say it's broken. I don't think the patch really fixed anything.
Tell me. So I'm a casual player of Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I know what people are doing to exploit it, but like explain to me and anybody else who's playing casually, like in what way is it broken that needed fixing?
I'll be back.
Dustin doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't care at all about Animal Crossing. Like,
that's fine. Get out of
I'm
here.
not even gonna pretend.
You're like
Did you need to go to the bathroom? You can go. So the problem.
Why does Dustin hate fun and whimsy?
To me, the way that the economy and the value of bells is kind of inflated is because the way you buy turnips and then resell, the prices that you can resell them change throughout the week. But typically, you don't earn more than double of what you paid most days. So if you were to play isolated on your own island and were only able to sell on your own island, you wouldn't make that much of a profit. The issue is that people have been just like kind of sharing whenever they 5 or 6 times the amount that they bought turnips for, and then they're able to share the code, and they've come up with systems that make it easier for people to show up. The code has also been dug through and discovered like algorithms and how you can predict what the prices will be throughout the week. And so I think to me, like the way they could solve this is just don't allow people to sell their turnips on other people's islands. But what they
people
did,
are putting this much work into this. Doesn't that like kind of take?
It's because it does. To me, it takes a little bit of the fun out of it. I'm not going to judge people that are like sitting on like 10 million bells right now, but what they did end up doing is that they just lowered the interest rates on your savings accounts.
Is that all they did?
The bank. That's all they did, and it was already super low. It was at the beginning of the month, you'll make like 0.5%.
I never made nothing on interest in that
game. It's like nothing, and they're like, okay, we can fix this. We'll lower it. We'll lower the interest rate, which it only benefits you once a month. And
the other thing people were doing to exploit it was they would put like 100,000 bells in their bank, and then they would jump 60 years in the future on their system clock, and they would accrue all of that interest at once, and they would take it out, and then they would jump 60 years back to the past, put it back in, and do that a couple times. And lowering the interest rate also screws with that strategy.
I mean, you could just jump now 120 years, right? Like
no, like weird. The game actually, the system clock actually caps at like 2060, something around.
Oh.
So you can't technically.
Okay,
weird.
So 40 years. You can only time travel 40 years into the future.
Wait. So is 2060 like the Y2K of Nintendo Switches?
Wow.
It's
Does
the
everybody's
year
Nintendo Switch stop working on that date?
Your island just gets like an asteroid hits your island and it all blows up and you have no idea what happened.
Remind me 40 years.
That's how they ended the dinosaurs.
Open up my Switch. Yeah.
The thing to me that is ridiculous a little bit about this is like, I guess it's fine if they want to limit that strategy. They want to slow people down on making money. Like, okay. But like, to me, the question of like, was the economy broken? Did they fix it? Is like, no, it's a single player for funsies island simulator. There's no economy.
Yeah, who are you hurting? Who are you hurting? Nobody.
You have money.
Play the game how you want.
That's true.
It doesn't matter.
This game is so like open-ended in the way that you can approach it whatever way you want, and I'm not gonna like talk down on people that use these exploits or time travel or I've tried to sell my turnips at 500 bells per turnip every week. It's just a matter of like how you want to approach the game, and it's also, I guess, a little bit on the devs to like not have seen this coming. Like if they didn't want people to do this, then you should have thought of that ahead of time.
This is the funny thing to me is that the strategy, Destin is just like stone fit. This strategy is so simple to see coming, right? But they also went out of their way to make sure people didn't screw up other things by like not allowing cloud saving and doing things like that because they didn't want exploits to happen and they didn't want people to cheat. But then you can just change the system time and it's like super easy to cheat in this game. So like there's a weird sort of like they're really, really good about limiting some of that and like just missing the the ball on others. I don't know, but it's a single player game, and I'm just enjoying it too much to even care about any of that, really.
Yeah, I like everything else that came along with the update. I like selling bags of weed to Leaf for $20.
Yeah. Bags of weeds.
Weeds.
Oh, yeah.
Weeds.
Yeah, there's a plural on that.
I like fencing stolen art, all the cool child-friendly things that they've added into it.
Sure.
But let's move on to another story so Destin can get back in the game.
Destin, hey, we're back.
Oh, all right.
Destin, we're here. Hey, we're talking about Destiny right now. Isn't that crazy?
Oh yeah.
Like we're not.
I want to talk about this Fortnite Travis Scott Astronomical concert. Did you guys see this?
Dude,
it's cool.
Oh my god, dude! Like more than 12 million players attended this thing. It's far and away the most advanced and well-planned event I've seen Epic do to date. They had like custom emotes that were available. Everybody's got like the flaming mic stands, headbanging. You couldn't be doing other stuff that wasn't relevant. They thought about everything. Like the HUD turns off. It goes through all these like transformations. Like the performance is like, I don't know, dude, like next level compared to even what they did with Marshmallow or with the Star Wars event. Marshmallow thing did like 10 million views. Star Wars one only did 3.1.
Yeah.
Travis Scott, arguably for this audience that they're trying to target, is like more relevant than Star Wars.
For sure. For sure. We were talking about like on our team, we were talking about what artists would make you like log into Fortnite, because most of us aren't playing Fortnite. Somebody threw out Daft Punk. If Daft Punk had a concert in Fortnite, we'd log in. But then at the same time, they would never do that because their audience is not really a Daft Punk audience.
Also, Daft Punk those dudes are 50. Travis Scott is like a currently relevant artist, and I actually like Travis Scott a lot. And but I'm not much of a Fortnite gamer. And and
you don't have to be. You just
I'm able to completely separate the Fortnite from this and just like enjoy it as the psychedelic, like Jack Kirby inspired, like weird trip that it is. Like I look at this and I just think like, oh my god, like if I was a teenager and like Travis Scott was my favorite artist and this was my favorite game, this would be like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Fortnite is doing something pretty incredible and unique. They've come up with a new way to display concerts, media, and it's sort of fourth wall breaking. They did the Star Wars reveal in here. They had Thanos come into the game where you could play as Thanos and, destroy other players. You could utilize the Avengers powers. So it's fun. It's totally free. Anybody can experience this. And you can go watch this full concert over on IGN.com right now. I've recorded a few of these events for IGN, and they are just absolutely surreal to be there and to be a part of. And Stella did this capture for us. This is Stella's character. She's rocking out to the concert there right now. And she also has an article up on IGN.com right now with her impressions of being there.
Shout out to Stella for being on top of this. That's awesome of her to
do. Also, you can definitely go. We're playing it right now, and you should watch it on IGN. But also, it's worth noting that this is happening again. Sunday. It happened again this morning, and then it's happening again at 9 p.m. tonight Pacific time, 8 a.m. tomorrow Pacific time, and 3 p.m. tomorrow Pacific time. They're doing it 3 more times that you can go and watch it in-game live. And like, I don't care about Fortnite at all. I don't really like. I'm fine with it, but I am very removed from it. Like kind of like Jeremy was saying similarly, and like I kind of almost want to install it just to see it because I watched the thing last night on IGN and I was like, this is really cool. Like it is really,
I want to be like in it. Like I want to be there physically. Like in chat, some people are saying like Tomachan says this concert would be great in VR, and like that's so right. Like like if this is where we're at now. Just imagine where we're at in like 2-3 years when we have like an Xbox Series X and a PS5 and VR is more prevalent and you can like really physically experience this thing. Like it's like something happens and just all of a sudden everybody's underwater and then they're in outer space and they're flying around. It's just really well done. And the engineering that went into this is remarkable.
I'm not gonna lie. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you saw one of the devs. He tweeted that like they did most of this working from home.
It's insane what they can do.
Are you serious?
Yeah, wow. It's pretty great. Props to the team.
Oh,
the team at Epic deserves like a huge, insane round of applause for what they pulled off with this. It is so cool. And I also saw someone in our YouTube comments even being like, not just the fact that they made this look so cool, but like the fact that in a persistent online game, they were able to switch people instantly between like, you're in the air now you're all in water, now you're all flying, now you're all falling, now there's no gravity. Like, and there was no hitching, there was no lag, there didn't break. Like, that's so cool.
Think about the tech behind this. You're in a 100-person instance, right? You're all experiencing this together, this awesome concert. Then they put you in solo instances where you're having a unique experience of your own, where you're being, thrown into the air or through the, like, at the end, you're sort of like swimming in this ethereal sort of plane. Yeah. And they're really, really doing some awesome stuff with the Fortnite engine. And I have to wonder if other companies aren't going to look at this and start thinking of new ways they can improve these type of experiences. If more musicians decide to have concerts like this or have these sort of crazy interactive elements, I'm all in. Like, yeah, do it.
It's not to mention looking at this that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's 12.3 million concurrent in this at once. It's set the record. They broke their own record for the most concurrent players in a game. And not only did they do all this without a hitch, they did it with the most ever players in the game at once. Insane.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't this running with 100 players once really well. It was that running with 100 players 120,000 times simultaneously.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Killer says it might have been capped to 30. I don't know. I didn't read about it. Regardless, I'm still impressed.
I get the impression looking at this that Travis Scott is probably somebody who plays video games and understands what's going on here, and I feel like a lot of respect is being given to the audiences of the artist and the game in equal measure here, which is something that you rarely ever see. I would never have seen anything like this when I was a boy.
It uses Unreal, right? So yeah. I don't think this could happen with any other game. I don't think Call of Duty could do this. I don't think PUBG could have done this. Fortnite is really just doing something totally unique and kind of just mind-bogglingly insane. It's just cool, and it's just neat to see what gaming is moving towards with delivering these experiences. Fire Native in chat said, how much would a concert ticket cost if they charged concert tickets for a 2-hour or an hour concert? I don't know how long.
Oh, you just need the battle pass. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I could see Death Clock or Slayer or something like this, I would pay $100. $100. I'm not even fucking kidding. It costs so much money to go see a live show now. Growing up, I would go see all those bands for $20, and now it's oh yeah, your favorite band is playing here. It's gonna be $300.
Yeah, Taylor Swift is $400.
I would almost rather see a live performance with all these crazy visuals and stuff, and just drink beer for free at home instead of paying
this would be a really if this could be applied to other artists, I could see this kind of taking off, this kind of interactive live performance thing, because you're not just simply watching this psychedelic music video. You're exploring it. You're a part of it. I think that's awesome.
Who pays who in this situation? Does Fortnite pay the musician, or does the musician pay Fortnite? That's what I'm wondering, because think of how much exposure he's getting, or
Well, it also brings up, not to drag this out too much longer, but it also brings up an interesting question of Travis. You can't just film a concert and post it online. A lot of the times bands will take that down, but games people can just post. And now, is Travis Scott's music under copyright, or is it a Fortnite game clip? It's really weird legal gray area that if this gets more popular, we're going to have to start answering those questions.
For GTA, they do flag those songs.
Yeah, I think what happens is the label probably goes through and claims the audio on the videos to give a specific answer based on my knowledge of being on YouTube this long. So you probably aren't able to monetize the audio on these videos, but whatever. I mean, it's the from a marketing perspective, it's amplifying your what is it, 12 million viewers to 200 million viewers or more Easy.
Yeah.
So
and what an amazing time for this to happen while everyone's stuck at home and can't go out to real concerts.
It's good for the artists and it's good for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This comment is funny. This kid in the chat, Chevifier says, "Epic. How crazy do you want it, Travis Scott?" Yes.
I mean, they delivered for sure.
I thought that was funny.
Jeremy, we got to plug up at noon. It's that time.
That's right. Yeah. God, we have so many more topics that we didn't even get to. We got carried away. But coming up next is Up at Noon with Max and Brian, or Up at 5 if you live anywhere but Fiji. We love those guys. They got a really funny show coming up. We're going to have to bounce so that we can make space for them. But thank you so much for watching today. Thank you so much for watching this week. Anything we didn't get to today, we'll be back again on Monday, and we'll come back around to it. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for Up at Noon.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.